It has been 1 year since this nation's worst environmental disaster, and it wasn't just human lives that were affected by the Gulf oil spill. Today, wildlife still struggles to survive. Our live team coverage begins tonight with Brendan McLaughlin live on Pensacola Beach. Good evening, Brendan.
Hi, Jameson. Yeah, that is really a remarkable part of this story. The resiliency of nature, the fact that the microbes in the water were able to eat up a lot of the oil. The sun evaporated a lot of it, and we got lucky. There were no major storms or hurricanes during that crucial initial cleanup period. So there's certainly a lot of gratitude, but scientists tell us that there's a lot we don't know, that it may be 5 or 10 years before we know if that BP oil spill pushed nature just a little too far. I mean, among the many mysteries that confront scientists as to how this is going to actually play up, questions that they can't answer are why dolphins, especially young and in some cases fetal dolphins, are being found dead in such high numbers. Now, few of these dolphins, or turtles for that matter, are found with oil on them. That's not usually the case, and some of these deaths were occurring even before the BP blowout. So nobody is ready or really able to definitively pin the blame on BP, but the science, some of it paid for by BP, will take years to answer these questions. One thing we have no doubt about is the misery and the death visited upon the bird life in the aftermath of that spill, and some of the great work that was done in the Tampa Bay area to clean up those birds and to rescue them. Our Carson Chambers takes an in-depth look at that effort.
It is 4 o'clock and feeding time. The residents who live inside enclosure number 23 honk at wildlife biologist Barbara Sudo. She's brought a basket of thread herring to toss. Sudo is the only human allowed to have contact with a colony of 10 northern gannets.
They're not used to having a second person in here.
But today, we're getting rare access inside Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary so we can tell their story.
The stress factor involved of being in, having the oil on them, having been in captivity, having to deal with the wash, that's a very stressful process for an animal.
The 10 seabirds are the last of a group of 84 rescued from Florida's Panhandle during the Gulf oil spill. Now they spend their days dunking their heads into a saltwater pool, shielded from visitors by privacy cloths.
It was sad to see the substance on them and them in distress.
Many of the birds you saw in photos during the spill were gannets. Their powder blue eyes, sometimes the only spot of color, peering out from an oily mess. Images volunteers like 20-year-old Melissa Simino lived firsthand.
They'll get, tar balls attached to their wings and they wouldn't be able to fly because it would affect their plumage.
Gannets are deep sea birds who spend most of their lives over the open water. Their feathers keep them buoyant and waterproof. But it's taken a year for the rescued birds to regrow their plumage.
Actually, they're dropping their old feathers and getting new ones in. And that takes time.
Gannets were the biggest bird casualty during the oil spill, followed by brown pelicans and laughing gulls. A year ago, 3,600 birds were found dead on beaches like Pensacola Beach, and 1,000 more were rescued.
These 10 gannets are among their survivors.
Well, the whole reason you're here doing what you're doing is to get them back out into the wild. That's really the most joyous. That's when you call it a success.
The gannets' new feathers are almost ready, and soon they will need them. In Indian Shores, I'm Carson Chambers, ABC Action News.
And I talked to somebody with the Department of Fish and Wildlife earlier today who said that there's a pretty healthy crop of bird chicks this year, so that's a hopeful sign for tomorrow. So meanwhile, here in this community in Pensacola Beach, there's sort of a delicate balance that they're walking. On the one hand, in the interest of tourism, which is the lifeblood of this economy here, they want to certainly get out the message that things are all good. By the same token, billions of dollars are still owed from BP, so they don't want to send that message too emphatically. That's a delicate dance that Governor Rick Scott was here sort of walking today. We'll have more on what he had to say on ABC Action News coming up at 6. Back to you.
Thank you, Brendan. And we have much more ahead on the oil spill. Coming up at 6, science will be key to helping restore the Gulf. Tonight, we'll show you the major research effort being led right here in the Bay Area. And don't forget about our continuing oil spill coverage on abcactionnews.com. You can go there right now to read about how many business owners affected by the spill are still waiting for claims to be paid out by BP 1 year later.